everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah, and on this channel we talk about all things music ed, especially ways to make your elementary music classroom more meaningful and joyful for you and your students. Today's video is going to be all about how I teach rhythm in kindergarten. Before I dive in, I want to say if you find this video helpful, give it a like or subscribe to the channel, or just share it with somebody that you think would find it valuable. All of those things help people find and learn from my content. Now, let's dive into how I teach rhythm in kindergarten. The next thing I do after visuals is start to incorporate some decoding. So I give them the visuals and I tell them what the different pictures are of in case there's any confusion, and then they start to decode them themselves. So for example, blanket, mug, blanket, mug. So I'll just have those pictures of a blanket, a mug up on the board, and it's time to start decoding them. And this is when I start to use something called dot notation, literally just putting one dot or two dots underneath the pictures accordingly. So for blanket, they would put 2, for mug, they would put 1. We do this on the board, like on a magnetic whiteboard together. We use circular magnets, or we just draw dots or circles with a marker. I do it myself. I have students do it. We just get a lot of practice with that decoding, having them start to translate and write down themselves what these sounds are, and those dots are representative of those sounds. And eventually those dots become the note heads, so it is connected. It's not just completely arbitrary. And dots and circles are easy enough to draw, when they're 5 years old. So dot notation, we do a lot of that with different pictures for whatever time of the year that we're in. As I said, this process you may not get to this until like Valentine's Day, and that might seem a little late in the year, or more than halfway through. But remember, this is not what you're doing every single class the whole time. You are taking weeks to do beat practice, and honestly, that should probably happen every class. You are taking time to do echoing, and that can be another little routine you start to add in September. So it's not as though you are doing this only every day until October. You have a lot of other things you're doing in kindergarten. You're doing movement, you're doing games, you're doing songs, you're reading stories, maybe you're doing art. You're spiraling your teaching, making sure that you've built foundational stuff before you move on to first grade, when it's time to start incorporating more traditional notation. That notation can be done as a class. That's how we usually start. But then an activity I do is print out 16, 18, whatever, 20 different pictures of things that can that students are going to be sorting in little stations. So I might do a bunch of animals. Last year we did the Chinese zodiac creatures. So there was a rabbit and snake and dragon and dog. And we went over the pictures beforehand because some students don't know what, some of the animals are. I think ox, what is that? So we went go over the animals ahead of time, but then I sort of put them in different groups in different stations. You can do this on the floor. I share a room with the art teacher, so I just have them go to their art tables, and the pictures are cut out, and I have 2 plates, paper plates on the table, and one of them I've drawn 1 dot on, one of them I've drawn 2 dots on, and they sort of split the pictures up, or they take turns drawing from the middle, and they put the word on the correct plate. This is something, again, you can circulate and do. This is giving you a chance to stop performing for the class. I don't mean literally playing instruments. I mean being on. Music teachers are on all the time. We can turn part of ourselves off there and walk around and see if students are using good strategies, clapping, tapping, patting, whatever, to help them figure out, okay, well, let's try, dragon. How are we going to figure out if it's a 1 or a 2 sound word? So setting students up in stations. You can do this with animals. You can do this with fruits, vegetables. I have a bunch of different cut and sort activities. This is another good one. If your students are proficient with scissors, if you have, an extra 10 minutes and you want them to cut out their own pictures, but you can also just print a few copies, laminate them, cut out the pictures themselves. I have all different kinds of themes, and then students sort them into either 1 dot or 2 dots on a template that I provide. But you can easily just also do this by printing pictures yourself, and just I love paper plates in music class. I use them for everything. Just there's a pretty simple center to just set up, and you can circulate. You can do different tables with different themes. You can do food, fruits, animals, vegetables, Valentine's Day, whatever. And you can have students rotate. That's a really great center to have them practicing 1 and 2 sound decoding and sorting. The next step after they've done their own decoding. So we've done beat practice, we've done echoing, we've done incorporating visuals, we've done decoding. Now they're going to start composing. Students should just be composing more in school anyway. But this can be as simple as using I'll link it below. I've got this simple, I think it's spring themed, but spring themed, you can use it any time of year, I guess. But it's a worksheet where they have a few different pictures at the top. They have to decode into 1 or 2 dots, 1 or 2 sounds like bee and rain cloud and flower, things like that. Then there are 4 empty circles at the bottom, and they decide which 4 graphics they want to draw in those circles and then decode at the bottom to make their own 4-beat pattern. So they decode at the top, they decide what kind of pictures they want, and then they decode their work and perform it for you, or perform it for their people at the table with them. So a very simple way to get students kind of full circle with this whole idea of we are going to become literate musicians. We are going to do, like I have just named, the beat, the rhythm, the visuals, the decoding, the composition. It's all connected up, it's all scaffolded, it builds on itself. And this is a great activity to do if you've staggered it the way I do, like they're ready to do this in the spring. Am I saying that every single student by the springtime is going to be absolute experts and ready for all this musical independence starting in 1st grade? No, but you're practicing every day. You're doing rhythm or echoing and beat every day in some capacity, even if it's not, even if some days you're just like, my routine is thrown off right now, you're still gonna do it no matter what you're doing, whether you're listening or you're dancing or you're doing a scarf activity. Any skill that you're doing in kindergarten is going to feed into this. That basically wraps it up. We end there. We might do a few more of those kind of composition worksheet type things. We might do a little more decoding, around St. Patrick's Day, or before summer. We might do like a summer theme thing, but really that's about as far as I go with rhythm in kindergarten. Check out that blog post that I have linked below about, I go into more detail here. There are a bunch of freebies linked. There are those cutting and sorting activities and different rhythm worksheets I have linked that really dive into this concept of 1 and 2 sounds. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. I'm not saying that is the best way to do it, but it's a way that works, that is fun, that meets students where they're at, that helps give them independence, that can be done at any time of the year. It works on every level for me. It's something students enjoy. It's something you can absolutely start incorporating at mid-year, even if you only get to, some of those different steps. You can definitely do this at any point. Remember to like this video if you found it helpful, subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions about this subject, drop them below. You can also reach out to me on Instagram. I'll leave my email below. There are a few different ways to reach me. But like this video, send it to someone who you think it could be useful for. And I also want to plug my email list. I send a weekly email towards the end of the week about music ed, activities you can do, tips I have, stories that I've learned from mistakes I've made, things that, moments of inspiration that I want to share with you, resources that I love, all kinds of stuff like that. It's a weekly email list. Occasionally I'll give you like a product update, but it's a lot of really valuable information for you, for music teachers, especially if you're just starting out, especially if you are like returning to the classroom after a hiatus, if you are like me and do not have a music ed degree, but went back and got certified after going to school for like music or a totally different subject area, this email list is definitely for you. I will leave that below as well. So share your stories too. Like share if you done, like, did you start this? Did you do a strategy that I just mentioned with you, an activity I mentioned? How did it go? If it didn't go so well, like how can I help you make it a little more smooth? I'm here for you. I love interacting with members of the music ed community. So happy music making, and I'll see you in the next video.